Hi, and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today we're going to look at part 2 of a meeting we had at our company, Peterman Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, which we call our Future Leaders meetings, where we're talking again about above the line and below the line thinking and the role that responsibility plays in being a leader. We all take responsibility for things, but are we taking responsibility for the right thing? So I discussed this and what leaders actually have a responsibility to do. So, hope you enjoy. The piece that I took away from this radical responsibility is they set up a kind of a model in the book where they say when we're not taking responsibility, we're either the victim, the villain, or the hero. So we got responsibility over here, or we've got these three: victim, villain, hero, that we can also be. Two types there. The victim, everything's happening to me. This is terrible. This situation, just, life ever going to give me any good luck? These guys won't listen. I can't get this to go right. Then you've got the villain who just blames everybody. So, well, it's their fault. They need to figure this out. I'll tell them again, but, they need to figure this out. And then you've got the hero. And so this is the piece that I think is extremely important. The hero thinks they're taking responsibility. Thinks they're taking responsibility by blaming themselves. A lot of leaders understand that, okay, they can get over that hurdle of not blaming others. Okay, I got to take responsibility. It's not their fault. I maybe didn't explain it well. It's not their fault. We need to probably go over it again. It's not their fault. All of those things. That's a somewhat easy kind of hurdle for a person on kind of leadership journey to overcome. The hard part is getting out of this hero mentality. Because in the hero mentality, you take responsibility for what's happened rather than taking responsibility for learning. To me, this is the one that I've been getting wrong. I understood the responsibility piece. I've said it. You take responsibility. It empowers you. All of those things. And to me, in my mind, it was always responsibility for, that it's my fault. I think I've even said that before. And to me, that piece was wrong. It wasn't wrong. It just misunderstood it. I took it for this is, as the leader, whatever happens is, I would say, it's my fault. I think that's the wrong thing to say. I think it is more so I take responsibility for learning from this situation. Does that make sense? That is one thing that I read over and over. I was like, I think I better understand this now, this responsibility piece, than I did before. I don't think I wasn't allowing any growth because I took responsibility by going and fixing the problem. That's very easy to say. Oh, it's my fault. You know what? I'll go fix it. Rather than taking the responsibility to learn from that situation. Okay, this went wrong. I'm going to take responsibility to ask the right questions to understand where my team is on this particular issue, how we can make it better, what they think, what it would look like if it went a different direction. All of those things is what I'm going to kind of charge myself with asking. When something isn't going right, will I take the responsibility to ask the right questions, to be curious, to open myself up to learning? And I think as leaders, can we make that shift? Can we take on the responsibility that comes with leading the learning? Ultimately, that's what you're in charge of, right? As a leader, you're in charge of the learning. How much is my team going to learn? Are they going to use every situation possible, good or bad, whatever it's deemed? Are we going to use every possible situation to get better? Or are we going to use every possible situation to point out and blame somebody for something they didn't do right? They point out a piece in here, and he says, as long as we believe there is a way life should be and shouldn't be, life won't work. I thought about that. I was like, okay. Should be, shouldn't be. Life won't work. Took me a minute. I was like, okay. So, if we believe that there's a way that life should be, and we believe that there's a way that it shouldn't be, it won't work. And I started to think of examples. Well, I think this should go like this. Well, it didn't. So what's naturally next? You blame somebody for it. It takes you into that to-me way of leading. And so they talk about not getting the world a certain way, not trying to fix everything that is going wrong, not making a to-do list of things that you've got to fix, but just learning, just taking life as it is, asking the right questions. That's all in that perspective thing. Everything happens for a reason. We often say that. That's what we're talking about. But the key to leadership is everything happens for a reason. Now, what can we learn from it? Because if we don't learn anything from it, it's very, very difficult to not believe that the world needs to be a certain way. That radical responsibility to learn. It's weird how things line up and in life, and you, like this book coming to me at this point in time. I can think of probably 4 or 5 situations that I needed to shift my thinking. I needed to shift into the learning piece rather than the fixing piece. There's a couple of leadership people that I listen to that talk about leadership as being a firefighter. You're running around and trying to put out fire here, put out a fire there. There's a problem over here. Got to go over there and get this done. And oh my God, there's another one. And they just keep coming at me. And I've always kind of like resonated with that. Like, yeah, there's always something, always something to do, just when you think you got it right, and, you got to go fix this and fix that, and whatever it may be. And, after reading this and just being exposed to some of the things that we've been exposed to here recently, shifting to that what can we learn from this, I feel like has opened up so much more. Because when you just view it as fixing it, you focus squarely on that problem, whatever it is. Whatever it is, we're going to fix that and then hopefully move on. So when you're fixing, it's just how quickly can I get this taken care of so that I can move on to something better. It's a problem. And, it's often said, well, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity. Okay. Agreed. But in order to make it an opportunity, you've got to learn something from it. And to me, that's the key piece. We talked a little bit about, dealing with certain situations. And when we go to fix problems, when we go to place blame, what happens? People put up their walls. They too get defensive. And we always talk about building leaders on our team. Well, is going and fixing a problem any way to build a leader? If you're encouraging them to get defensive, that's going to be difficult. So you as the leader, when you open yourself up to learning, they can't be defensive. Or if they do, let me know. That's pretty radical. That's pretty unbelievable. If you're focused, as Mary put it, on the solution and not the problem. What can you do with your people that you may be leading? What can you do if you're following a leader that will allow for more learning? There's a ton of things that we can do. But as they talk in the book, the one that really kind of, as they say, kind of supercharges this shift into the by me style of leadership, that above the line thinking, is understanding, being present in the moment. Being grateful for a situation as opposed to dreading it. We often, and I've made it kind of a common practice, someone did it and I stole it from them and it seems to work, is the gratitude exercise. So when I lead a meeting and we go around and say one thing that we're grateful for. And I've told other leaders about this, and I go, just feel it for a minute as you're leading it. Just feel the energy shift. Feel people become present in that meeting. And it's just that shift. How do we shift away from everything that's happening to us and shift into a place where we're grateful to be here, we're grateful to be in this particular position, we're grateful for the opportunity to learn. It's a crazy thing that it can be so powerful just to think about the things that you're grateful for. It can have that much power in that above the line thinking. Because where does stress come from? Below the line thinking. It's where all stress comes from. Why is this happening to me? Oh my God, I can't control it. My blood pressure's rising. This is getting crazy. Stress. Or, well, that wasn't how I thought that was going to go. I wonder what we can learn from this. One of the keys in here, and I'll like I said, I'll print it off and send it out. But he talks about, how do you make that shift? We've all been in situations where you literally just want to scream and rage. Why are you doing this? Again. But he talks about an exercise in here, or they talk about, I keep saying he, that they talk about where they tell you to take the situation and then just rage about it. Just talk, I can't believe this person. I swear to God, if they ever do this again, I'm going to wring their neck. I can't even stand it. How stupid could they be? This is terrible. And then they talk, and then he says, then take a deep breath and walk to another room. and then open yourself up to learn. So as I was thinking about this exercise, I've never really done this. If you see me do this, maybe wave me down. But I've never really done this, but then I thought back, okay, what is kind of comparable? And the one thing that I always say is, when someone's, sends you that email that literally wants you to make you want to throw your computer through the wall, like, you've got to be kidding me. Do that. Air it out, don't go tell anybody, but, right there to yourself, scream, yell, do whatever you need to do. Get out the frustration. And then what I've always done is waited till the next day to respond. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, that's kind of physically moving to a new space. And I've always found it beneficial. I have kind of like every morning I sit in the same spot on the couch, do the same thing every morning. And for me, that place, what I've found is tough situations that happen the day before. When I wake up the next morning and I'm kind of in my place of where learning happens, that's where I read, that's where I write, that's where I do everything. When I'm in that place, my head gets real clear on what I should do with this situation, what I can learn from this situation. So I encourage you to kind of find that place. Like, where's that place where you're happy? Maybe it's outdoors. Maybe it's, wherever. Everybody's got their own thing. Maybe it's, a room in your house, whatever it may be. But as a leader, controlling that, understanding, it goes back to that self-awareness piece. Where am I right now? It's okay to be below the line. But how do I make that shift up top? How do I make that shift to above the line and really start leading in this situation, as opposed to just reacting? Because reaction, we can do that all day long. But guess what that does? Doesn't solve anything. That's just two people bickering at each other. I can't believe you do this. It's your fault. I don't, it never gets anywhere. The physical space shift is critical. And the one thing that I'm really excited about as we move into this new building is, in the new building we have dedicated one-on-one rooms. I stole this idea from a company over in Columbus. They had one. I said, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that too. And so we kind of outdid them because we got like 4. They only got 1, but figure make a point. I thought about this, and in this book towards the end, they have a list of questions. And this thing, I'm printing off a copy and putting it on my desk because it has below the line questions that you would ask, and it's got above the line questions that you would ask. And to give you an example of these, and so why I said about the one-on-one rooms, I envision having these questions on the wall. What a great place to have them. Understand, here's the questions I would ask if I were below the line. Why don't we try these questions over here on this side? Or I guess it would be up. That would make more sense. Above the line questions, below the line questions. So they talk about these, so I'm just going to read them off here. So in a blame culture where people take more or less than 100% responsibility, we hear leaders and everyone else asking these questions. Who did it? Why did it happen? What is the root cause? Who participated in the chain of events that led to this? Who dropped the ball? Who's going to fix it? Sound familiar? We've all been guilty of saying these. I'll probably say them today, by God. But my hope is that I can then pull myself up above. And on the other hand, in curiosity learning cultures where people take 100% responsibility, leaders and others ask these questions. Am I willing to take full responsibility for this situation? What do I really want? If there were no obstacles, what would I be doing with my creative energy? Am I willing to learn whatever is whatever it is I most need to learn about this situation. That one is powerful. You ask yourself that one every time, Jiminy Christmas. You're going to have to do some soul searching to find that one. But I like it. Am I willing to see all others involved as my allies? Ooh, that's a nice one. I like that. Am I willing to see myself as empowered in this situation? How can I play with this situation? Where and when do I feel most alive? What am I distracting myself from doing or knowing? See the difference there? To me, I'm only 80 pages in. That was worth the price of admission right there. Give you a tool at the end. I like that. Give you the questions to ask yourself. How do you pull yourself up above that line? You know, I often talk up here and, just for talk's sake, hopefully it helps some. But, to me, these pieces right here in this book are incredible tools to use. That shifting from your space to get in a space where you can learn, and then to start asking the right questions. I mean, there's been a lot of times where a certain situation presents itself, and I'm wondering, how in God's name am I going to get above the line about this situation? How are we going to learn anything from this? And the one thing that I have discovered is that the situations that we struggle to learn from, or that we struggle to get above the line on, are more than likely the result of never doing what you need to do, never learning, never understanding why something is happening. And those are the tough ones. Just kind of dug our hole there. We're really below the line when it comes to that situation. So it's going to take a little bit more to get up above. But to me, this piece here, the understanding of what you're actually taking responsibility for, is what I think is the key. Anybody can say, as the leader, "Oh, my fault. Yep, better take responsibility for that one." Anybody can do that. Like I said, that's a pretty easy shift. Well, yeah, I am the leader. All these people report to me. That's probably my bad. But taking the responsibility to lead the learning. Lead the learning. Sounds complicated, but it's really just about asking questions. Finding really great questions that you can ask to lead the learning. And those questions aren't, why did you do this? Why have you been so stupid? What were you thinking? Are you an idiot? Not those questions. The questions we ask need to invite learning, need to invite the other to not be closed off, to not be defensive. See how that works to lead? That responsibility piece grows leaders on your team because you're helping them avoid going below the line. You're actually giving them a hand to pull them up above the line. And the more people that we can get above the line, the more people that we can get taking responsibility for learning, the growth won't stop. Sound familiar? It's because that's what's happening. The more above the line conversations we have, the more we grow. The more we dive in and try to understand why something is happening, why someone may not be understanding something, or how we can help that person, where we can be supportive. Those are the conversations that are allowing us to grow. If we just went around and blamed everybody for everything that's happening, we'd still be blaming everybody for what is happening. This year is going to go however it goes. But the more that we can learn each and every day from it, the more we'll grow. And to me, that is what I love about what we get to do, is hopefully provide an environment where you can learn. You can learn how to handle situations. You can learn how to better do this. The technical piece that is so heavily involved in our industry, yeah, there's training that we need to do. But if you can teach a guy to learn from every situation, if you can teach him to learn from every call he runs, rather than blaming the customer didn't have any money, they didn't need this, the system was 2 years old, it didn't work, no one ordered the material, this is terrible. Guess what? That's all you're going to see. Life is what you see it as. It's plain and simple. If you see a world that isn't and should be, you're right. And it's never going to be. But if you view life and what you do as a leader as a series of conversations that are always happening, and it's my job to learn and pull out as much as I can, you're going to raise people up. You will naturally be a leader. You can't not. If you are always learning from things and sharing that knowledge and inviting others to come up above the line with you, there is nothing that can stop you from being a leader. You can't. That is what a leader is. People ask, well, I just got to put in a couple more years and I'm going to be a leader. Really? Well, guess what's not going to be waiting for you? That. Because you can start being a leader right now. It's simply learning and helping others. It's very simple. That's the best part about it. That's why I like it so much. It's simple. I don't want to try to figure out something complicated. Seems silly. Figure out something simple and then just do it. We talked about the law of magnetism. I was meeting with a guy yesterday who was a guy that I grew up with his son, and he was always kind of a guy I looked up to, kind of a mentor, and like when I got out of college, he helped me. I met with him a couple times on, the business world and this, that, and the other. And we never really talked about leadership. I was 22. I just thought, I just need to figure out how to sell some stuff and do this and do that, which was fine at the time. And met him yesterday. Hadn't seen him in a while, and we were just talking, and he was talking about, he goes, I've been seeing some of that stuff that you've been putting out there on LinkedIn and stuff, and we got into a conversation for about an hour on leadership. And I was like, Ron, I never realized that you really thought this way. I never realized that this was what you were about. And to me, that simple thing, I never intended for that to, what I was doing, affect him, of all people. He was a guy I looked up to. He's the dad of a guy who's my age. That's kind of a weird dynamic. But what happened was I just was sharing what we talk about every day, like I'm doing today, just trying to learn from a book or learn from a situation that we didn't handle right or we handled right and it turned out great and all that stuff. That's all I share on there, just that stuff. And that was really an example of, to me, a situation where in that relationship, I viewed him, he was the leader, the older guy, the guy who taught me what what I knew, went out of his way to do all of that. But at the end of the day, me just helping ultimately allowed me in that conversation yesterday to be the leader. Funny how it works. Just reach out, help people, do your best to learn whatever you can. It's not a race. Life's happening every day. But if you're consistent and you're consistently learning each and every day, and I'm not talking about picking up another skill, I'm talking about learning from life and how we can help others and things of that nature. So think about that. Think about how you might be able to help somebody today. How you might be able to look at a conversation from a different perspective. How you may be able to learn something. Pull somebody up above the line. Invite them to learn with a great question. Cast blame to the side and just open up. Be curious. Ask a great question.